Hello and welcome to Soul Portals, exploring psychospiritual horizons with your hosts Cedric Speyer and DeeAnna Nagel. Cedric is an author and therapist who developed the interview guidance model and is a pathfinder in the psychospiritual realm. DeeAnna created the Essential Soul Care model, a model suitable for therapists, coaches, and healers. The monthly episodes of Soul Portals feature guests sharing insights from their personal paths and professional practices. Thank you for tuning in for the Soul Talk with all kinds of trailblazing teachers and guides as Cedric, DeeAnna, and guests explore new evolutionary landscapes.
Okay, welcome to Soul Portals. This is our usual invocation at the beginning, which goes like this. May the spirit flow freely through our gathering and our conversation, allowing it to be both energizing and edifying. And then the opening quote to set the tone from Austyn's book. So Austyn Wells is a spiritual medium, grief counselor, soul gardener, and there's a lot growing in her garden, who empowers individuals to create soul-centered lives. And we'll explore that more as we go along. So this is a quote from chapter 8. When we are connected with our infinite self, we are a soul that has been gifted with a physical body and a mind through which to experience the natural world. This soul shift allows the infinite self to oversee and guide the finite self. We must honor both perspectives because we cannot simply live spiritually, nor can we operate only from the finite self. So it's about who's in the driver's seat and who's the passenger. I actually have my own model of the soul in the driver's seat and the spirit and ego and psyche as the passengers. So Austyn, how did you come to be Austyn Wells, the soul gardener?
Well, first of all, thank you both so much for having me on your podcast. I'm very honored to be here and to engage in a fruitful conversation about the soul and our journey. My journey began when I was very little, when I was 5. I had a moment where I needed support, and my infrastructure familially was not one that you could wake them up in the middle of the night and ask for help. So that self-reliance kicked in really early, but I also had one foot in the awareness that there was an invisible support system. So I prayed and asked for help. And in that moment, the walls of my room became somewhat gelatinous, and souls stepped from, I suppose, another dimension into my room. I could see them. I wasn't worried. I had no fear. I could see through them. So diaphanous beings. One came to my bedside and gently said, we're here to help. And it wasn't in verbal words. It was as if it was a knowing inside of myself that was communicated through both of our souls and heard by each one of us. And at that point, my room became two realities. And to my right, I could see the moment I was worried about the next day manifesting. It was a runway show, and I had to be a bridesmaid with too much tulle, so I couldn't see my feet, and I was freaked out. So I was worried I was going to go up the stairs and face plant. So I witnessed that little me walking up the stairs and making it to the top without any kind of impingement of gravity. And so once I knew I was going to be okay, then they had me become the energy of the room and the people witnessing me. And then they had me become the energy of the full space, the invisible space surrounding the humans that were there. And I immediately knew I was going to be fine. In that moment of realization, that dissipated. I became just me back in the bed with the individual, the woman that was standing by my side, and she intuited to me again, "Are you okay?" And I said, "Yes." She went back into my walls and I fell asleep, and the events of the next day transpired almost exactly as I had envisioned.
Mm.
So
Yeah.
it was remote viewing, it was a bunch of different metaphysical principles that took a couple of years to unpack. But once I had that awareness, I really became clear that there was a very evident duality of our souls. And that's been a passion point.
Mm.
5 years old is a little young to write a dissertation about something like that. But once I kind of understood what was happening, that became really compelling to me.
Yeah.
So, but I want to back up because you said you were 5 years old, you were in bed and you were praying.
Mhm.
What was, so obviously there was a spiritual component already there.
Praying is probably a word I would use now. I was asking for flipping help.
Okay.
Think, which, my more mature self would say, "Oh, well, I was praying." But, when I was 5, I had a need and I didn't know where to go with it. But I had enough memory, which young children tend to have up until 6 or 7, of a presence that's greater than themselves, that place of ancestry or spirit or infinite intelligence, God, whatever that supplanted word is. And so I was invoking my divine right to get some help.
Okay.
Mm.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
makes perfect sense. Perfect
Yeah.
sense.
Because I can't really say we were like a big religious family.
Right. So you were, I mean, some would say that that's innate in us, right?
Yes. I think it's within us, absolutely, DeeAnna, and I think we forget it. I think
Right.
we have all the skills when we're born, then we forget it so we can remember it again at a different point in our life. And that
Was it,
probably would be when we choose a different level of enlightenment. So if we're talking about dark and light, it's when the shadow becomes profound enough that we are seeking a different liberation from the stories we tell ourselves.
Right.
was there a watershed moment when you turned the corner to using those skills to helping other people as you do now?
Mhm. Yes. It came, I've used the word cattle prod already. It came by different individuals cattle prodding me into moments that I was reluctant about. One was a party planner who said, "You can read tarot cards, go to the party, smile and say nice things." That was the beginning of, and I knew the tarot and I love the tarot, but that was a cattle prod moment. I was affiliated with the very beautiful psychic medium, John Edward. He cattle prodded me into speaking on a internet presence he had years ago, where I was taking callers and helping people in a spiritual capacity and didn't feel that that was within my realm, but he saw something in me that I didn't know about myself at the time.
Mhm.
So, and then there's been, I think, other moments where events have occurred and I have intelligently, thank God, said yes. So it embarked, because I think there's constant opportunities for your own evolution. It's just our free will and the activation of our free will, whether or not we step into those moments or not.
Right.
Yeah.
It's a good time to say to the attendees, if anyone wants to have a mini reading, can I call it? Or
Oh,
yeah,
yes.
that they
Okay.
can let us know in the chat and we can put them on.
Okay. Well, you're going to get people on a yes on that one for
We'll,
sure.
we'll see.
Yeah. Yeah.
We, yeah.
And
Um,
what would that entail? Hi, Victoria. Nice to meet you. Hi.
well, she's
Yes, we
already.
Well,
did.
thank you. And Cedric, thank you for letting me know that's part of what we're going to be doing this morning, because that might take us off path of other
Oh,
discussions that we talked about. But hey, I'm always up for this.
mm,
What that entails is a medium, and this might be a nice opportunity to explain the difference between a psychic and a medium. A psychic is, or an intuitive is, someone who is able to perceive information about your journey within the lifetime that you are in right now. the people involved, the relationships, your soul lessons, things like that. So think of it as a parenthesis on this lifetime. An intuitive, a psychic will be able to perceive, knock on wood, will be able to perceive that information with love and compassion and reflect it back to you in a way that is fruitful and expansive. A medium has the ability to connect not only your personal soul, but to those souls that have passed, whether pet or person. And it also can expand to guides, angels, those kind of realms. However, to me, mediumship should be something that is corroborable or evidential. So it should be something where the information that comes forward is enough that you can allocate and identify the person to which the medium is talking with. The spirit world or the ancestor realm, because there's many different dimensions in spirituality. That particular realm, think of it like a layer of an onion. That's kind of a great way. Like that's where that collective vibration is accessible. The ancestors witness our suffering.
Mm.
So our misunderstanding of the potential of an infinite existence or a eternity of being, we don't understand because we're defined by the material world. Once out of physical form, they are very almost instantaneously aware of how their soul and their lack of accountability or progression has affected others. So they will always be seeking curative conversation. However, a medium cannot always just be going, oh my God, they love you so much, because there's no evidence there. And they may never have had that skill set. So my job is to allocate and to balance the difference between the necessary evidential information for you to have confidence the individual is being represented with their deeper wisdom understanding now that they're out of physical form.
So one of the things I liked that you said in the book was that mediumship is not just about, and I'm using my words, but it's not just about talking to your people who've passed. It's always in a curative way. It's always about a healing taking place.
Yes.
And I think that's missed a lot in the pop culture.
Yes, and it speaks to my middle name should be integrity because I like have a really hard time with anyone who seeks out someone like me and is gifted information that makes them feel disempowered, threatened, fearful, because that's the human being within the practitioner speaking to the fear base or the human being or the finite self within the person that's coming for the reading. Additionally, my job is to be very firmly within my infinite self or that aspect of me that is aware of a higher consciousness. So a practitioner should seem like they kind of have their stuff together and that they give a presence of peace and of groundedness, because you would want your information to come from the highest potential vibration. So if that person isn't coming from that space and they're doing anything that's making you feel diminished, then they're not coming from that pure sense of mediumship, which isn't about me being the truth teller. I'm between two individuals, or two souls or two entities, right? So my job is not to say, oh my God, well, I think.
Yeah.
My job is to be the intermediary between those consciousness.
Like a conduit,
Yes. And
So
you
in
also,
I like that.
in terms
You
of the
also-
flow of our hour, because we have a eager
Yes.
volunteer here in Victoria. So how contained can it be I mean, how?
Well, let me work with Victoria and we'll figure it out. How's that?
Okay.
Yeah, and contain meaning you want me to keep it at a kind of a clip.
No, I meant like in the time frame.
Yes, so more or less, I'll be mindful. So Victoria, this will be a snippet of something, so you know. So I can see her in a little window. So Jeff, I don't know if you can give her, there she
I
is.
see
Hi,
her in a big
hi,
window.
beautiful woman. Hello. Victoria, how could I serve you today? What would be helpful for you? So normally in a mediumship sitting, I would never ask such a question. I would just dive right in. But in this sense, just to be respectful of time and circumstance, how can I serve you today?
I don't really have a particular question, but I'd like to be guided by whatever comes to you, because I believe that that's what I would be meant to hear today.
Okay. Okay. Let me ask a question. Is your father in spirit?
No.
Okay. Would you understand there being a disconnected or a relationship, an evolutionary opportunity with the relationship that you have with your father?
No, not with my father.
Okay. Would you understand that with a father-in-law?
No, maybe a grandpa.
Okay. Dad's dad?
No.
Okay. Only because it has something to do with, because I see things very clearly when it kind of lays itself out. Interesting. Thank you for being generous. I'll just say this randomly. Thank you for being generous with animals. Thank you for rescuing animals, because that's being called forward, that you have a generosity in that way toward either, do you understand that, rescuing animals or being kind to animals or bringing animals into your home that have been like disenfranchised? Do you understand that?
Well, I know that cats keep coming to me and just hanging out in my house until I chuck them out at the end of the day.
Yeah, there's just some recognition on that on a very ancillary level. So I just want to say that. I'm going to reframe the question and just ask what would be the best of service for you today. I adore the person that you are. I adore your passion. And I want to speak very much to the fact that you're you're kind of like this awesome octopus that has tentacles in so many different directions. And you have so many different ways that you want to serve and so many different interests. Don't ever feel that it has to be delineated in one way, because I feel that you're very similar in the passion that I have, that like I could do this and this correlates with that. I would mind map as much as possible all the things that you're interested in, and trust me, they will all kind of come together in a way that will be very fruitful for you. You have a gorgeous professional trajectory. Like, I appreciate the way that you want to again serve from such a place of heart. A lot of it comes from disenfranchisement, a lot of it comes from lack of communication, and I think that probably connects with that side of the family, mom's side of the family, dad, the grandfather, the whole thing. And I think what you've done is you've allowed the collective ancestry within your own family, and you've taken on the cause of, I want to be the change. But because you're walking and speaking the talk and noticing it's made a difference for you, your service piece is now, I want to offer this to other people. So when I align with someone that notices the pattern within their own family and then steps into the service piece from their own being, because of that, then I know that the person's found their passion piece. And you're feeling the chills and getting the goosebumps right now.
I had a pulsation in my body, which I know means it's right. And then my whole body is now feeling.
Goosebumps.
Yeah.
So
I
always ask,
know it.
yeah. So when I'm connecting with someone, I also ask that our souls are connected, so I can feel your energy field, but I can feel this wash of just like this coolness, and that to me is always that affirmation, confirmation of yes.
Yeah.
So because you don't I mean, you get support, but you have done so many things on your own and with your own initiation. Take this as a spiritual high five, that you're absolutely doing the right thing, but don't feel like it has to be linear, because you're very linear in your progression. And what I want you to do is give yourself the freedom to be able to trust the fact that it doesn't have to follow A to B to C. so yeah, so just go with the flow of it and trust what you're doing, and the books will come and the other things that you want to do and the speaking and all of that. But you're in an information gathering point right now where I think your personal intersection is starting to reach a level where you're offering that wisdom to others. So let that play out a little bit, and then I think you'll find the cadence of that will take you forward. Does that
Thank
help a
you.
little bit?
Yeah, thank you so much. I love the alignment of seeing you tonight, because today there was a client and literally every word she said, it popped into my mind just before. I knew exactly what she was saying at all times. It was crazy. I do
Yeah.
have that. So I love that I've seen you today as well. It's sort of,
Yes. And it's also, I found sometimes, as this was especially true when I was studying shamanism, is that I would have people call me before I had taken the class asking for the session I had yet to learn, and they didn't even know I was going to have it.
yeah,
And that was my affirmation of, so even if you're 5 minutes before your client, you're good.
yeah. It
And
feels,
I don't think there's any shame in allowing your own personal process to be
yeah.
offered to them as a mirror, because it creates that kind of familiarity. And I think these days people aren't looking for a therapist that holds back and gives space. They're looking for inclusion and community. So you have a beautiful way of collaborating with your client.
Yes, spot on. Yay. And the high five to the spirit. Woo.
Yes. Woohoo.
And may I say, I'm a big fan of synchronicity. And
Yes.
just before I came on today,
Yeah.
a friend of mine had sent me a music video with an octopus.
Yeah.
We're talking like 10 minutes before I came on this call.
It's
So
perfect.
there
Yeah.
you go.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah. Beautiful,
you.
Victoria. Beautiful.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome. Thanks for
I'll
asking.
mute now.
Okay. So, thanks. That was great, Victoria and Austyn. So switching gears, because we often ask if there's a therapeutic approach that you found transformative. And I already know the answer because it's in chapter 9.
Mhm.
And it's something a therapist would relate to if they're familiar with the drama triangle. So if you could, tell us a little more about that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So in my book, Soul Conversations, that came out in 2000, I think it's 19. The publisher was New Harbinger, and I was speaking with Cedric and DeeAnna about, thank you very much. Look, she's Carol Marilling. She's like, hi there, here's the book. Law. The beautiful thing about it now, Cedric, now you just have to bevel, you'll be fine. The beautiful thing about working with New Harbinger is they're a scientific based publishing company. So they work with therapists and counselors. And Dr. Lindsay Gibson's book, Adult Children of Emotionally Immature Parents. That's a book that actually came out around the same time as my book, that now is quite getting a great deal of attention, as well as The Untethered Soul. So they've done some really great books, and I feel very honored to walk amongst them. What I discovered was I was very drawn to Kaufman's work from, I think it was 1972, when he was developing or introduced the drama triangle, which, just as a point of recapitulation, is the triangle of the perpetrator, the rescuer, and the victim. And it's always how I visualize it, because it helps me with the distribution of it, is that the perpetrator and the rescuer are the top of the triangle, and the apex of the triangle is the victim, because no matter where we are in the triangle, we always end up at victim. So I was looking at the presentation of the perpetrator needing to dominate and needing to be, forceful, and it's I discovered in my own kind of understanding of it that the limiting belief underneath it was needing to be in control, to be safe, and that diminishing other people as either incompetent or blaming other people, and always on the defense. So then I looked at the rescuer, and I came to understand about the rescuer that there was this feeling of needing to be needed and needing to save, but there being a sense of loss of self to serve others. And that quality and that characteristic really appealed to me, because a lot of children who grow up in dynamics where there is an alcoholic, there's what I call a light switch parent, which we could put in persecutor, perpetrator role, or victim, but it's someone who's there and not and there and not. It breeds an intuitive child, which falls into the rescuer category, because it's a child that will be in the place of, are you okay? Because if you're okay, I'm safe. And if you're not okay, my entire attention goes to you. So that child becomes energy sensitive, invisibly sensitive to what's going on without words in order to create a sense. So they're always seeking connection. So codependency, whether it falls in that category, that could be certainly debated, but it's that need to always have a sense of connection, but generally by over-serving another person, creating a diminutive sense of self, which then of course creates fantastic resentment that then eventually gets to be to such a level that then therapy or help comes into mind, hopefully, if the person is intelligent enough, right? And then the other role is that of victim, and that is someone that needs attention and sympathy and has a hard time taking responsibility for their own actions, and they just have a sense of powerlessness and helplessness. So then I looked at the core beliefs. So the core belief of a perpetrator is I'm not lovable, because they're used to having abandonment as part of their trajectory. The rescuer is I'm not enough. And then the victim is I can't. So I said to myself, so if that's what the overlay of how our finite self, so finite self is human being, infinite self is the part of us that is aware of the fact that life happens for us, as opposed to finite self, life happens to me, which sounds very victimizing. So in that context, I thought, well, what is the psychospiritual evolution of that drama triangle when it comes to people seeking spiritual truth? So the perpetrator becomes since it's an anima, it's an action, it's a dominance. I thought, well, that's kind of like the divine masculine energy, a misuse of it, because we're masculine, feminine within ourselves, right? So I thought, okay, well then the answer to that perpetrator persecutor is starting to really understand what is the divine masculine within me. How can I lead and be a mentor and not diminish people, but hold a space for them to step into their becoming with relatedness and not defense? Then I looked at the rescuer and I thought, well, the rescuer is really the divine mother in a way, the divine feminine, because rescuing is this sense of relatedness and connection and a sense of emotional exchange, not an action, but more of a passive exchange. And so then the rescuer becomes the nurturer that then has the ability to not need to fix, which is the greatest Achilles heel of the rescuer. Because he can't fix anybody, man. That just always blows up in your face. But to want to hold space and nurture someone and allow them to discover their own limitations, but being held in a space of, I'm with you, I'm walking alongside of you. If you need me, I'm here. Use your words, empowering that person to be able to find their way and nurture themselves. And then the victim becomes the divine child, and it's the part of us that can recapture innocence and say, life is an adventure. I'm supposed to learn. Fumbling is part of it. It's not that I can't, I just don't know how. And once I came up with that, it became what I call the soul-centered star. So then if the triangle goes down with the drama triangle, then it's superimposed with a triangle that goes like that creates a star. So they overlay with each other. So I hope that definition makes sense with it. But
it's a great reframe.
It helped me bridge that connection between when my finite self is kerfuffling, I can look at myself and say, what is the core belief here? I'm not supported, or I feel alone, and then I can allocate where I am, and then I can look at it from that divine perspective and say, need nurturing, or I need freedom and trust, and come from it from that perspective.
Yeah, it's a great reframe. It makes me wonder, what's the normal therapizing of the drama triangle without this whole work?
Yeah, I haven't. DeeAnna, step in, please.
This conversation without the soul piece reminds me of transactional analysis, adult, parent, child. I'm okay, you're okay. I'm okay, you're not okay. I'm not okay, you're okay. All of those transactions that we do, and there's a whole theoretical orientation called transactional analysis, came out about the same time in the 70s.
Of course, in
again,
the 70s, right?
Right. But with that said, how far can you go with that again without for me, the psychospiritual piece has to be there or it falls flat. So I have a question with this.
Yeah.
How does this conceptualization that you determined for yourself, how does that inform your work as a medium? Because that's the piece I don't think people understand, that we all have intuitive gifts, but if we use them without structure, without framework, without purpose, it's unbridled.
I think if it isn't personally integrated, much like a therapist being in therapy, I think we're only as good as we're willing to evolve ourselves. So as a medium, all of that realization came from the witnessing, which is the beauty of mediumship, which is my ability to witness a soul and spirit who left unfinished business, and the soul that's still within the physical form struggling, and witness what happens when love and forgiveness is introduced, and what is that dynamic, and how does that shift and change. And it was then by witnessing that, then I got to a point where I was like, well, I don't want to just drop people off at the curb with spirit messages. Now that I understand that, that's why I studied shamanism, and that's why I did life coaching and all the other modalities that I keep adding, because I'm always saying to myself, I also have a job as a human being that's had a couple of moments on the planet to be able to offer objectively observations about how those models are playing within a person's life. So there is an element within the sessions that I do that are allocated differently, that work with people on celebrating the aspects of themselves, which has that. That's why I wanted to study life coaching, because I wanted to understand, like, what is that model? And it's a beautiful model because it's just asking great questions and empowering people to come up with the solutions that already exist within them. It's just most people don't know, and therapy does that fantastically, and counseling does that beautifully too. So there's so many different ways, I think, but it takes the audacity for a person to understand that they are beyond their own wit, that their own wisdom is inaccessible, and that they need the connection of another intelligence, whether in physical form or out of physical form, to give them the missing puzzle piece that then begins the next path forward.
Thank you.
Is it fair to say that the finite self is ego and infinite self is soul and spirit?
Yes. But I think, yes, I think it can absolutely, it definitely has the ego component to it, but it also has some other mythologies to it, because the finite self is also informed by the material world, and within the material world, everything dies. It also is gifted a physical form, and since we're predominantly visual, everything around us makes us feel we are singular and separate. So we're seeing everything from a material perspective. That's the finite kind of, I don't want to say imprisonment, but that's the mythology of the finite self, along with the ego, the emotions, and everything. So it's this idea that, and it's so quantumly different in perspective. The finite self is individually aligned and aware, and the infinite self is aware of it being part of everything. So in one capacity, I'm on my own by myself. It's all me. And the other one is you're part of everything and connected to everything. And it's just like mind blowing to think that that duality can exist within consciousness of a being.
Yeah.
But when people are stuck, it's because there's an aspect of their infinite self that knows there needs to be forward motion, but the finite self is stuck in the looping of the stories we tell ourselves or the belief systems that we have. You guys know this, singing to the choir. But, you know, so yes, it's definitely a component of it, but I think it really has helped me see it from an energy perspective, because you know, if we rely just on the physical vision and forget the vision of energy, which is, they call it a clear sense, I just call it soul seeing, is that the invisibility between everything is just as credible as the physical manifestation of my phone. Yeah.
So one is, I would imagine the finite is more linear, and the infinite is in terms of conceptualizing time.
Yeah, and thank you for bringing time into it. Isn't it funny? So time is this multidimensional principle, and we only see it in two dimensions, past, present, future. It's a line.
Yeah.
Nothing about that makes any sense whatsoever. The minute people get into the infinite space, you go to a concert with a musician you love, you do a piece of art, you dance, you do something, you lose track of time. Then time becomes creative. So time has so much flexibility to it, but because we have to keep delineating everything and defining everything, God love our brain, you know, we don't ever see anything as anything other than what was, what is, and where we're going, if we're lucky enough.
My model has the horizontal and vertical dimensions, and the action is at the crossroads, the intersection between the vertical dimension of life and the horizontal.
Yeah.
So,
yeah,
you know,
which is why the cross to me is so breathtaking.
Yeah.
Because the cross is simply the awareness of there's one dimension that is within the physical, but there's also a different dimension that intersects it.
Exactly.
So I think the power of that symbology is magnificent. However, it's interesting in the indigenous cultures, the Southern Cross is not centered here. It's up like this. So that's more like a person standing like this, which I've always enjoyed that idea of it. But yes, that intersection is magnificently important.
And the other
always
way,
makes me think of Michelangelo's, you know, the
Right.
man standing like that. Yeah.
the other way of putting it is that we're monkeys in the middle between heaven and earth. So, which is the problem with the wish, the hope of one day we're going to have heaven on earth, and that's, you know, that not being the reality. Like heaven, you know, we're in the middle. You know,
Yes.
we're mediators between heaven and earth.
But speaking that way,
Yeah.
that's and this is I think what our conundrum is right now. We perceive everything through our brain. So we think everything. So we have to have a logical understanding of it. Now, the challenge with that is heaven doesn't have a location up there. And earth is here because we see it. But when you go to energy, there is no differentiation. There is no separation. There's just a collective field. So when you're in that place, and this is the challenge with the human being, because we are derivative and driven by our brain, and our brain says, you know, this information comes in, I have to make sense of it, and then I have to file it, and then I can move on, which is why we all get traumatized by experiences that we can't understand, and we get stuck there. But once you can shift to that infinite awareness, which is energy first, not physical, then you're in a place, in a space of relationship with it, because you're not separate from it. It's an essence of you. It is part of you. It's part of your quantum field of experience. So then it's automatically much more accessible and relatable, which is why I'm always happy when energy medicine or any kind of energy work. I mean, you think of qigong, the beautiful practice in the Eastern cultures. When a person has cancer, part of their diagnosis and their aftercare is qigong, and their evidences and numbers of remission is so much more less than anywhere else in the world, because what they're doing is they're creating an energetic relationship with themselves, not just seeing themselves as a physical body. So that's why that duality of the soul to me is an imperative for people to understand. No, actually, your energy first, and the energy manifests in physical form. But you try to explain that to most human beings, and they'll be like, huh?
Well, the old spiritual being having a human experience rather than the other way around.
Absolutely. But you know, it's you can't corroborate it, you can't touch it, it's invisible. So to say the invisible essence of life is what is real and what you can actually see is the limit, is an absolutely mystic, bizarre concept for most people.
Until we get to the integral phase of evolution.
Yes.
Ken Wilber and company, about the different phases we've gone through in the big picture.
Yes.
And we are moving out of the rational phase, which is why it's breaking down.
So. Let's hope so.
It's collapsing anyway.
Yeah.
Like, the dumbing down of society is just a symptom of the whole rational model, losing its grip.
Well, but it also goes in a way to the, I mean, we're living the drama triangle in a really extraordinary way.
Yeah, that's good
for the last couple of years, we've been having perpetrators, but the thing is to be thrown into that triangle on a collective consciousness level. I'm grateful for it, because that does need evolution. So to me, when we all get thrown in the same classroom and where there's a dominance of perpetrator persecutors, you're going to have either people stepping into the triangle and saying, oh my God, there's nothing I can do, or how can I fix this? What can I do? Or you're going to have people say, no, there's a greater thing. We need to create a different dynamic of connection and love and community to embrace that which is unconscious, which is asking for evolution.
When you said it all defaults to the victim, that was new info for me, because I thought you get stuck in one of the three positions.
We play, if you think about it, in almost any model that I've experienced. And again, please, if I am saying anything or offending anybody, because I am not a therapist, this all has come from 20 plus years of listening to people and making observations on my own. What I have noticed is no matter where you step into the triangle, you always end up in victim. Because if you try to rescue someone and they perpetrate you, you go to victim. If you are a perpetrator and you try to dominate somebody and they make you feel unlovable, you go to victim. It just always feels to me that we always go to that place of, I'm not supported, I'm lost, I'm alone, because we all started off as children, and most of our issues, I mean, it'd be a pretty low percentage of people whose issues transcend childhood. Most people's major imprints are from very young. So that divine child is a massive, beautiful aspect of us to reclaim, is the innocence to not know. And to wander into a moment with mindfulness and presence, to allow our life to be what it is in this moment, not informed by prior moments or fear of future moments.
And to be a persecutor or perpetrator or rescuer / codependent, at some point they were victims.
Yes. And that was a defense that they created. Absolutely.
Exactly.
Yes. You don't become a rescuer unless you need to connect to someone, which means that you were in that divine child state and someone wasn't there for you.
Exactly.
So you either became defended or you became a connector.
Mhm.
And whatever that default is then creates those roles. So lovely observation.
And which
Isn't
did you,
conversation awesome?
yeah. And which did you become?
Which did I become? Rescuer. I'm a
Yeah.
recovering rescuer. Look at the work I do. I'm
Yeah.
trying to, and it's always interesting when you look at what were the deficits. I had a tremendous amount of anger growing up in the area around me. So that was never I was like, oh, anger, so to hone that skill myself and learn the proper way of communicating with dominance and not feeling that I'm going to step on someone like a bad Monty Python cartoon. Um, you know, that's a go for me, but it's also really necessary for me to step into the divine masculine within me as much as the divine feminine and divine child, which I'm really good at.
Mm.
And I know for me, depending on what's happening in my life, I may be faced with re-experiencing some issues I thought I had finished.
Yes.
And then I end up in that triangle in any of the three positions,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes we have to recycle a few times through that.
Yeah, we do. But I think the other benefit to me of the triangle and really understanding it was I could catch myself going, oh,
Mhm.
hang on.
Yep.
There you go. Nope, let them figure it out themselves. And I realized also because I've spent a lot of time, you may guess, with Rescuer, because of that energetic connectivity that happens in childhood, with needing to feel safe, if the rescuer is kind of the lane that you go into. We also have a very hard time with letting things go, because and the fix it part comes from, this pissed me off once I figured this part out. I was like, are you kidding me? Because I thought, oh, I'm helping people, I'm doing something right, and rescuer wants to be the good girl and the good guy and the whole thing. But what I realized was, in objectively witnessing it, is part of the reason why the fix is there, because we don't feel comfortable with the energy that's being displayed. So we want to fix it to stop the discomfort, which tends to come into the person's solar plexus. So we'll stop it because it's uncomfortable for us. So once I realized it was actually there was a level of selfishness to it, I was like, no, like I was so mad about that. But it was really imperative that I noticed it, because then I could say back to myself and I could go, there's that energy escalating again. That's yours to figure out, not you to project onto the situation and fix it with.
And is that
It's
when
mine to sit with.
is that when other people feel controlled? That when it lands on them?
Well, then they go to perpetrator, right? Because you're trying to fix them. Then they'll go to perpetrator. Where do you go from there? Victim. See how it works?
Mm.
Yeah.
And solar plexus is all about our self-worth anyway. So
Yeah.
if we are attempting to gain self-worth from fixing somebody else, that's likely going to boomerang.
Oh, yeah. And there's a really sweet correlation between third chakra and fifth chakra. So I'll find that in working with mediums, for instance, when I'm training a medium to do the profession in some regard, if they can't feel spirit, so more or less they'll see spirit, like they'll describe someone visually, or they'll know information about them, or they'll hear them talking to them, but they don't feel their energy, I immediately know I have someone that has trust issues, because the third chakra is also the willingness to connect with another individual. So based on the psychic or the intuitive perceptions that show up in a person. So for people that are listening, who every one of you is intuitive, because you're within the soul space of another human being. And when you are in that intimate space, you automatically become intuitive. You can't help it. Massage therapists, hairstylists, anybody who's within somebody's field at a close distance.
Bartenders.
Bartenders, well, they have a bar between them, we hope.
But it sounds like there's a crossover, the Celestine prophecy, and he has the 4 control dramas, right? Because it sounds like any which way it goes, there's going to be control dramas, like, right?
We're human.
Yeah.
We're gonna try and think we're all that in a bag of chips, and it's not gonna last very long, but we can try. I think humility is so charming these days. The people that are still really defended, I'm like, oh man, you have a journey.
Yeah.
Good luck with that. Don't know how that's going to play out for you, but little humility every now and then, not a bad thing. Apology, accountability, my favorite qualities in people.
Mm.
I'm
Right?
looking to see if there's any questions in the chat.
Yeah. I haven't looked at
We've
the
got
chat.
about 10 minutes left. So if you've got a question, please feel free to put it in the chat.
Oh, Marion, the name of my book is Soul. We can put it in the chat, but it's Soul Conversations.
Full
A
conversation.
medium reveals how to cultivate your intuition, heal your heart, and connect with the divine. You can find it on New Harbinger's website. You can also get it on Amazon. Yay.
So are you a
thank
lamp,
you.
a lifeboat,
You know
or
what? I should know our tech god. It was already on it. Sorry.
right?
Thank you, Jeff.
Are you a lamp, a lifeboat, or a ladder, Austyn?
Am I a what? A lamp, a lifeboat, or a lantern?
No, a lamp. When you help people minister, are you like a lamp, a lifeboat, or a ladder? Or does it change depending on who you're with?
I'm in a lifeboat with a ladder and a lamp.
Yeah, good answer.
I need all of them. I need the ladder to be able to connect with the spirit world because my intelligence is not enough to float the conversation. I need the lamp because I've got to see in the dark. And I
Yeah.
need the lifeboat because I have to remind myself I'm human too, and I'm going to learn from the situation and not to take it so seriously because I learn from everything I do, whether it's, DeeAnna making an observation, Cedric, you making an observation, and yeah. I need them all.
Okay.
I need everything. Give me it all.
How am I going to ask that question again in other episodes now that you've given the ultimate answer?
Yeah.
Oh, you'll find they're going to answer it just as creatively. I'm certain.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll take all the help I can get. Seriously.
You know who agrees with you about your vision of the duo consciousness, double awareness?
Who?
I'm Mary Magdalene in the Gospel
Oh,
of Mary
wow.
Magdalene.
Well,
Like,
do you know, I
this-
will gladly walk in that company.
So,
Right?
so
Talk about divine feminine.
it's,
Oh, yeah.
it's like the Dead Sea Scrolls. So they discovered manuscripts, and so
Yeah.
it's another gospel, which of course was written out of the Bible.
Mhm.
And it's, they have the original and then translated on the other side.
Oh, beautiful. And Cedric, thank you so much for your profound grab of literature and works and books on different subjects, because you've quoted, I think, about 7 or 8 books already within the conversation, which is
Right.
great.
Some
You know,
people
and
actually,
it isn't so much, I think, about us grabbing, because what I appreciated about it is you're not, well, let me tell you about Mary Magdalene because this is the only answer. What you're
Mhm.
doing is you're doing the spiritual buffet. I'm going to have a little asparagus. I'm going to take a little of this and that. And then you come up with your own awareness integrated with your own experience.
yeah.
Yes, he's an
sometimes I get
excellent curator.
Yes.
curator, that's it, yeah. And
Yeah.
I do bibliotherapy on the side for people when I get to
Ooh.
know them, like I match them up, like matchmaking people in books and people in movies. But of
Oh
course,
my God, that's a very romantic. It's kind of like a Renaissance man, right?
you got me. Now you're channeling.
No, but that's such a cool thing to do because I think people feel there's so much external stimulus
Yeah.
that anytime you can invite someone into a conversation with themselves, whether it's reading a book, journaling, meditating, any kind of time that there's that inward focus, I think people have a deeper sense of not only self, but connection, because the external connections to others, that's always going to vary and wobble. You
Right.
can't really accomplish very much that way through life if you're always externally focused. Rescuers love to do that. They're all
Yeah.
about
Do you know
them
do you know
instead
the
of
Enneagram, by the way?
that's a fairly new pursuit, but I'm fortunate.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've ever heard of Bee Chestnut.
We did an
Bee was-
episode with her.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Bee was my roommate
Yeah.
years
was the
ago. And I didn't
synchronicity.
realize that she went
Wow.
off in the path that she did. And one of our mutual friends said, "Oh, B has written this beautiful book about the Enneagram." I'm like,
Yeah.
what?
Yeah, we
What?
interviewed her like what, 3 months ago?
Oh, she's awesome.
Yeah.
She's just magnificent. And yeah, we used to be roommates. It's really funny.
I can see
Makes
that.
me
That's
laugh.
there's
We
another
also
thing.
we also did a podcast on Qigong. We had somebody for a whole hour on that now that you mentioned it before.
Yeah, Qigong is so good. It's all good. I just think
Yeah.
there's all those paths to exploration, which are,
But
you know,
I come
delicious.
by my reading honestly because I grew up, my mom kept the TV out of the house. So no TV until I was a teenager and rebelled, and eventually I bought her a TV.
Mhm.
But no TV, and we used to just sit together reading, the
Yeah,
family. Yeah.
that's so beautiful.
Yeah. So Mary Magdalene, and she says, uh, then I said to him, Lord, when someone meets you in a moment of vision, is it through the soul psyche that they see, or is it through the spirit? Pneuma, pneuma. The teacher answered, it is neither through the soul nor the spirit, but the new between the two, which sees the vision. So I think that lines up with the opening quote where you
Yeah,
also
it
said
does. I
it's
just, I again, when we see things from the material perspective, everything's separate,
mm,
and there's nothing that could be farther from the truth. There isn't a space between us. There isn't my physical body, your physical body. We're all part of a quantum field, to make it very scientific. Now you could define that field as infinite intelligence, the field, God, however you want to define it, but it isn't a separation at all. But because we can't see it,
right.
when people say, I'm off path or I'm on the wrong, you can't go off path. You're going, there's something that's in the work. It's integrating. It's just always. But I think helping people understand that presence is present is the best thing, and one of the most interesting explorations that you can step into. But
When we're off path, when we feel like we're off path,
mhm.
it's really just a mirror, a shadow mirror looking back at us, showing us what we need to be focused on.
Right, right. And I think again, we come to those analogies that put something outside of us, something inside of us, right? That we're having this mirroring experience. But again, it's so difficult for our brain to conceptualize anything that's integrated. We'll always see it as separate in most of our imagery. And I think since all of us in one capacity or another are working with individuals who are feeling disenfranchised, I think it's up to us to be mindful of the symbologies that we use, because our symbology and our explanations can equally distance people from something instead of finding what's the connectivity between it, right? So I love your analogy because the mirror becomes the connectivity, right? There's an aspect, that's what their issue is. I don't feel integrated, but the mirror creates an ability for there to be a relationship between the two. And I'm always finding that seems to be part of the healing process of these souls that have left physical form, is that they're connecting to and making you feel seen, heard, acknowledged.
Doesn't that apply a certain level of evolution though, where it's no longer mayhem and murder? Like, because it's like the advanced course here.
Well, it is the advanced course, but again, if we are both finite and infinite self, it's our responsibility also to remind ourselves of the invisible presence as much as the visible presence.
Yeah.
It's just our human being doesn't want to do that.
Right.
No.
Well, and we don't, as individuals, even if we understand, have a concept of shadow work or however you want to soul work.
Yeah.
We don't necessarily know how to look in the mirror and reflect back the powerful questions to ourselves.
Yeah. That's, I have a membership where people come together every week, and we have a book club and ancestor messages and all sorts of really groovy things that transpire every month. But we've been rereading The Artist's Way, which I had forgotten, Julia Cameron's really great book. And it's been such a blessing for me because it had been a while since I've journaled. I used to journal all the time. And out of it came so many other ways of journaling with aspects of myself.
Right.
And I realized, it's just such a powerful tool for conversation, but a conversation requires two people. So I think what we forget in the journaling process is you're talking with yourself. So there you're already creating a level of comfort because there's a connectivity. If you can see it as that, you're having part of you is reflecting on what you're writing, and part of you is being given permission to express. So I think that duality of the soul has just helped me profoundly because it gives me this permission to be a bit of a conundrum. I can have it totally together and be a complete mess at the same time. And that's what's supposed to happen. I'm not supposed to just be a desired result all the time. So I think having that awareness that contrast is how we learn, how we grow, then you can kind of be
someone said the wound and the healing can coexist.
Yeah.
So on that note, the hour has flown by. So
Yes.
the closing blessing is, may we do our best to use a wide angle lens while we serve the moment that's unfolding in front of us.
I love it.
Amen.
Yeah.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Jer, for helping us with the tech. You can find this on your favorite podcast channel and YouTube momentarily within a day or two.
Yeah. And thanks for those that pose questions. Marian, thank you for the beautiful things that you said. And Victoria, thanks for being brave.